Tony Bernhardt has an exclusive interview.
Take a look behind me. That's the picture of a city in crisis. At least 8 to 10 tents back there line the streets in full view of authorities.
But the Coyotes I spoke to said they're not concerned with this wall.
The residents in this Bay City community tell me they're done. Done replacing trash cans that are being ruined by the city. Especially when these guys go for $100 a pop.
KUSI's Tony Bernhardt Jr. has the special report.
When you walk onto an elevator, you're probably not thinking about when the last time it was inspected. But what our investigation uncovered is out of more than 12,000 permits in Orange County alone, birds first started popping up in major metropolitan cities across the country. But fast forward to 2019, and these guys have been blamed for more than 1,500 visits to the emergency room, even prompting San Francisco to outright ban them.
And this man, who goes by Mateo, was so nervous we had to climb through a barbed wire fence and then walk about 300 yards to a desolate, abandoned lot on the outskirts of Tijuana to get his story.
Stealing packages from porches is not a new concept. We all know someone that it's happened to or have been a victim ourselves. What is new is the way LAPD is using technology to catch the bad guys.
It caught her looking around at first, and then she walks right up to the door.
These three got cabin fever and pulled out their snowboards. So what's the game plan? How are you going to make this work?
I don't know, just find the biggest hill we can and bomb down it.
I'm gonna grab some skis and try to do some urban skiing.
Especially in urban areas like right here in Inglewood, are almost 100 years old. It's a problem that City Council promised to fix 6 years ago. So what's the holdup? What this art grant has done is turn things like this warehouse that hasn't been occupied in decades into a makeshift movie theater for things long lost and forgotten, like silent film. So when an annual report was released just last month showing that our homeless population was on the decrease, well, it raised a lot of red flags. So we did a little digging. What our investigation uncovered was that SDPD made a number of arrests just 2 days before that census took place. In fact, the Raisbrooks tell me they've had to replace 4 of these in just 12 months.
They called the San Diego City Sanitation Department to complain about their 4th trash can being, well, trashed in less than a year. And we're told it's the homeowner's responsibility to replace the damaged cans. That's when they called us. We simply got the city's trash collection schedule, put up our drone, and within 30 minutes, we caught the culprits.
They violently pick them up and throw them up, and and they come hurling back down and they get slammed on the cement. Reckless. It looked like he didn't really care. They were literally falling over, dropping them in the middle of the driveway.
For today's Workout Wednesday, we let you guys choose. And what you chose, of course, is one of the hardest ones, high intensity interval training.
I got an exclusive look into a tunnel built by the Cartel connecting Tijuana to San Diego. The tunnel I'm climbing down right now goes 70 feet straight down. Once I finally reach the bottom, it's hot, humid, dark, and wet, and large enough to smuggle drugs or people. Customs and Border Patrol tell me the tunnel probably cost the cartel about $2 million to make, but it's fully equipped with electric, air ducts, and even a telephone system.
The Padres take the field right behind me in just about 2 hours against the Atlanta Braves. Last year, the Padres came up with one of the oddest promotions in baseball history, the Win 5 for $99 pass.
In fact, this apartment complex we're reporting from had its ribbon cutting about a year ago. I know because I covered it. 12 months later, the apartment complex is still 80% vacant.
California is notorious for its bad traffic, but what doesn't get the national attention is the condition of our roadways. I just ran over 3 potholes on this one city block. In fact, 80% of the streets in downtown San Diego are well past their 50-year lifespan.
We've got a rare opportunity to sit down with a former terrorist who, instead of harming people, now wants to help them.
It's rare for a terrorist to break free from a life of murder and mayhem. Did you ever kill anyone?
No, sir. I didn't kill anyone.
It's even rarer for that same terrorist to sit down and confess to what they've done.
But look a little deeper, and what seems like the signs of a healthy and vibrant downtown is quite the opposite. With rent more than tripling in just the past 6 months, nearly 16,000 people are expected to leave America's finest city by 2020. Well, for many, that decision is a reality, and the rising cost of prescription drugs can be lethal.
But you have to breathe, or you have to take insulin. And how much smaller can you make your life financially that you're living on the size of a postage stamp?
Raise your hand if you've gotten a robocall within the last week. Robocall or spam call? It says, in part, there wasn't enough food or drinking water for the Mustangs to survive, that there was immense overcrowding, and that they had no choice but to euthanize them in what they call a humane way.
So they said it was humane euthanasia. I've got the pictures to show. If this is what we call humane euthanasia, we need to rethink it and come up with something better, because the world is not that gullible. The people that have seen these are incensed. It doesn't matter what the reason is. They don't care. This is not what America does.
The 57-year-old woman was sitting in this exact spot at Fashion Center Mall when 35-year-old Victor Gutierrez came to the driver's side window, put a knife to her neck, and demanded her keys and her wallet.
The key there is people that are trying to get out of North Korea are going through China, going through Thailand, going through Vietnam. You said that you were able to make bombs and you were able to make guns. Who is it that would teach you how to make a bomb?
Kaya po yun, napuspon po yung pagkakabitay ni Mergin noong April 15. Sabi ko, opo, gusto ko malaman ng buong mundo na may isang batang bibitayin na walang kasalanan. Kaya po nagpamilya po ako.
It's a story that I'm covering. It's the execution of Mary Jane Blessel. She's in Indonesia right now, and I spoke to her mother yesterday.
That's why many Filipino victims of the syndicate. That's a syndicate, sir.
Alison and her children created a space and pathway for us to come here. When we arrived here, my parents came with nothing. My parents were academics. They would not be here today if it wasn't for the fact that they had to flee for their lives. And so when we arrived, we came with nothing. And it was church organisations, it was neighbours, it was people in our community that privately supported us.
One reason for it is that people who are actually in the process of seeking asylum, they're typically locked up. It's not all that easy for journalists to gain access to go and interview them. When I was a political correspondent in the UK, by contrast, I worked for Sky News in London, and it was not all that difficult through contacts to ask for help in contacting asylum seekers who could speak to Canberra on the basis of their own experience.
There's one message that you want to get across to an American audience, which will in turn obviously be a global audience. From your perspective, what is it?
Think about what is happening. If you're an American citizen, you are, yes, an American citizen, you're a citizen of the world, and your vote matters to everybody.
Media outlets, they have been a mouthpiece for politicians, and it has only taken a massacre for us to realize that hate speech has consequences.
The reason this thing is great is because it is a fat burner. And to be honest with you, it's the most bang for your buck. You can get lean off of this. So let's get started.
Tougher enforcement can lead to higher prices. These ruthless smugglers use anything they can to their advantage with no regard to the human lives they're smuggling. KUSI's Tony Bernhardt Jr.
The wall I'm standing next to is what Border Patrol calls their primary wall. It's essentially leftover material from the Vietnam era. But the Coyotes I spoke to said they're not concerned with this wall. They prefer to use the method of distraction.
Smugglers are desperate and they want to get whomever they're crossing over, right? So they'll use a different type of tactics where they're distracting agents in one location, whether they're trying to send a group of migrants through, that kind of distraction, or they're throwing things over the fence, trying to assault agents, get agents to respond to a certain location, and then they'll push another group that they had staged elsewhere on the south side, and they'll use that to be able to push the other group through.
To get to our first interview, we had to travel down the back alleys and sun-cracked roads of Mexico. Not something you'll find in any travel brochures. Even then, this man, who goes by Mateo, was so nervous we had to climb through a barbed wire fence and then walk about 300 yards to a desolate, abandoned lot on the outskirts of Tijuana to get his story.
I'm seeing not too much coyotes right now because it's hard to cross the line.
It's hard to cross the line?
Yeah, the line.
The border?
The border, yeah, it's hard.
Human smuggling is a multi-million-dollar business, and it's lining the pockets of the cartel to the tune of about $500 million a year. They're operating out of safe houses right now, less than 10 miles away from the San Diego border, and everybody wants their piece of the pie.
It's a multifaceted organization. So not only are you paying to stay in a safe house, or the cartel or smuggling organizations to cross you along the border, but you're also paying to get picked up, you're paying a load driver, you're paying the foot guide, you're paying the people in the stash house.
So here's how it breaks down. $200 goes to local police to look the other way. Another $400 goes to safe houses on the south and north sides of the border. The Coyote takes home about $2,600 cash just to get the immigrants onto U.S. soil. And finally, $3,200 in transportation costs to get to Los Angeles or San Diego. The Coyotes, or Polleros, are ruthless. They're not trying to help the immigrants they smuggle to a better life. They don't see them as people. They see them as dollar signs.
Ese es el negocio más grande, más maravilloso que ha podido existir. 4 días estás en la frontera, te recoges tu dinero y vienes para acá. Pasan 40, son $40,000 en un día. De los 40 que pasen 20 y agarren 20, de igual manera ellos agarraron sus $40,000.
Their primary motivation is that dollar sign, like you said. They're not worried about if the migrants are crossing or making it to their location. Once they have your money in place, whether you make it or not is not of importance to them. They have your money, and they need to get the rest of the group through, and they will do that, and they will leave you behind if you're slowing them down.
One of the surprising facts we uncovered were that some of the safe houses south of the border are in plain view. This man, we'll call Tito, shows me a barbed wire lined warehouse he claims is a stash house, and even invites me in for a tour.
Smuggling organizations, it's a big production. You have people on the south side that are housing migrants getting ready to cross. They call those safe houses, so they'll have migrants locate into one location and possibly give them tools or supplies in order to cross the border.
And recruiting Coyotes is not a tough sell, even with a threat of serious jail time.
Estuve viviendo en San Diego un par de meses. Empecé a trabajar en la yarda. Ganaba 30 pesos diarios. 30 pesos diarios ganaba. 30 pesos diarios y me daban una comida.
So in the underworld of smuggling, people are more profitable than narcotics, and there's no minimum age to apply.
I think the youngest that I've ever come across is a 14-year-old boy. That kind of age group, that teenage group that is very impressionable.
Today, there are more than 18,000 Border Patrol agents protecting our southern border, above and below the ground, in the air, and in the sea.
The smuggling organizations are kind of a well-oiled machine. We call them transnational criminal organizations.
And the Border Patrol has a message for the bad guys. Be on alert, because it's only a matter of time before you're caught. Tony Bernhardt Jr., KUSI News.
You know, it's no secret we're dealing with violent acts of terrorism across the globe. But what drives a person to kill and terrorize? Our news director got a rare opportunity to sit down with a former terrorist who, instead of harming people, now wants to help them. Our Tony Bernhardt has an exclusive interview in our Local 8 series, Mission India.
This is the face of a terrorist. In your activities, did you ever kill anyone? It's rare for a terrorist to break free from a life of murder and mayhem.
No, sir. I didn't kill anyone.
It's even rarer for that same terrorist to sit down and confess to what they've done.
I can use the bombs and I can fire the guns, but I didn't kill anyone.
He almost backed out of this interview at the last minute. The fear His family would be harmed or his children kidnapped. His name is Swami. He grew up here on India's unforgiving streets. A local terrorist group recruited 18-year-old Swami, just a freshman in college, to be one of their own.
They give them machine guns to kill and destroy them and to rob the rich. And Swami is one of them.
It's not just the poor and uneducated that the terrorists recruit, but the wealthy and influential.
Especially not only the high school and college kids, intellectuals, doctors, lawyers.
Teaching them everything they need to know to kill.
You said that you were able to make bombs and you were able to make guns. Who is it that would teach you how to make a bomb?
In that group, their trainers are there. They will train.
They train you?
Yeah.
One of his orders? Gun down and rob people heading to different towns. Bishop Ernest was one of those unfortunate travelers. But with an open Bible in his lap, he was somehow allowed to pass. The next group wasn't so lucky.
We pulled the gun out and said, "Go away quickly, go away quickly." Before we reached our destination, they killed 6 people.
The government issued an order to shoot Swami on sight. He was arrested and locked up for 14 days. Thrown into a hole with bars in the middle of the Indian forest. He calls it the secret place.
So they had you basically in a secret prison?
Yes, they want to kill me.
He refused to eat, feeling alone and abandoned, knowing he was about to die.
It was you by yourself?
Yeah, by myself only. The secret place, that's a very darkness place. At that time, I remember myself in my heart. Just pray.
He got to a point where he had to make a decision. He got down on his knees and did the one thing he never thought he would do: pray.
At that time, I don't want to believe any God. I don't want to believe until Jesus also.
Today, he still doesn't know why the police set him free. But he knows one thing: he left changed, different. This is also the face of a pastor. Now, he's known as Pastor Swami.
Did he save you?
Yes, absolutely. Jesus only saved me.
Today, instead of killing people, he's saving them.
I come to you in the name of Jesus.
The man who was handling guns to kill people, now he goes and says, "We love you."
I spent 3 days with Pastor Swami. Today, he leads a church with more than 100 people in the congregation. On the very ground he learned to murder. He's followed in the footsteps of Bishop Ernest, a man he almost killed. A man who believes in his heart that even a terrorist, even someone who has violently killed others, can be saved.
I preach about the love of Jesus. The love of Jesus will transform you, and when you show the love to other people, they will also be changed. Whether they're rich or poor, God will change them.
I want to share many people, many terrorist background people. I'm sharing my testimony in front of terrorist groups.
Letting go of his past and looking forward to his future.
And you've asked for God's forgiveness.
Yes. I forgive myself and I forgive my friends and all the terrorist background. If I harm the people, I went to them and I asked the forgiveness.
In India, Tony Bernhardt, Local 8 News.
This is part of an exclusive series on India that we're running throughout the month of May. If you want to catch up on previous stories or see this one again, we'll have it up for you soon on local8now.com.